Welcome to Talking Pictures Podcast with myself as your host, Brian, and my co-host, David. David, what's the crack?
Not much, Brian. How are you?
Good. What are we here to talk about?
We're here to talk about a new movie.
M3GAN?
M3GAN, yeah, M3GAN. A new film that's out at the moment about an artificially intelligent toy that's created by this woman who has taken custody of her niece who recently went through a tragedy. And it's kind of this story about a toy that has artificial intelligence, and of course it goes wrong. You know, horror ensues.
I thought everything went right when watching the movie.
You think that everything went right? It was all supposed to happen like this?
What's the point in the movie otherwise?
Yeah, I mean, you can look at it like that, but I think probably for the main character, it went wrong for her. But for us, we knew what we were going into, and I think that's something that you were saying, that this movie lives and dies by its marketing, and people going in will know what to expect. You're going in to see this doll dance and wreak havoc on unsuspecting people. I thought that this is another win for Blumhouse. Even though they've have a few hit and misses with some godshitful, awful Halloween movies and Fantasy Island and a few others not worthy to name. But when it comes to The Invisible Man, the first Halloween, and a few others that I'm going to spare you from naming because we don't have time, it's another win. And Blumhouse is just swinging for the fences, and it's occasionally getting to skyrocket, and it is doing it on very little budget, and it's reaping the benefits financially. And I thought it was great. I really enjoyed this movie. Now, when I say great, let me start by saying, and I thought this as I was watching the movie, the second scene actually, when you're listening to the dialogue, they're talking about what we're going to do, how we're going to tell our boss, and about what we've been doing. I can't remember the dialogue word for word, but I just remember thinking, yeah, you just walked on set and you just started reading the lines, because that's how they've written, like, what happened before. What were you talking about just before? Did someone just walk in the room? Did you walk up to that position, that mark, start talking from there? You know, that just got me thinking, this isn't bad dialogue. This is like 90% of all movies. And if you think this is shit dialogue, well then you must think that at least 90% of movies is shit, because that's how it all is. And we're here to have fun, and we're here to watch Killer Toy Robot. Yeah.
And if you can't get out of it, get into it.
Exactly. Yeah, it's, you know what you're going in for. You're not going in for Citizen Kane. You're not going in for this deeply emotional film. You're going in for
this.
It's a killer robot movie.
And I was very happy walking out of it. I was very excited. Like, I remember thinking and saying this to you, how great is it to walk out of your cinema and be very happy having watched what you watched. I wouldn't change too much at all about the movie. And, you know, it lives to its standard because of the title character, M3GAN. There's just something about that character that makes this movie very enjoyable to watch. She's my favourite character.
They definitely dive into they use the uncanny valley as as a tool. They know that, okay, this character is going to look human, there's just going to be something slightly off better, and that alone will be uncomfortable, make people feel uncomfortable. And
I like that they established early on, when she's having a very still static look about herself, but the slight movement of her eyes or her mouth or her eyebrows or a tilt of the head, and any other time after that, you know, even if she's still, she's thinking. She's looking at you, thinking something to her head. Like, everyone's going crazy about dancing. It's all over TikTok, but she started that dance going in for the paper cutter, the big machete looking yoke, to kill your man, to put him off guard.
It's a distraction. She's like,
I looked up what the director was thinking in his mind. Is like, she does not move unless she has a motivation. At the start, when they're crossing the threshold with M3GAN noticing that Katie, the young girl, is upset, and they're in the room, and M3GAN looks across in the mirror knowing that all the corp heads and our lead character is viewing them, and she raises her eyebrow, and as an audience you're thinking, you're doing a piss poor job raising this child, so I'm going to step in and I'm going to make her feel better and I'm going to protect her. And she does that, and she does a cool few things. She draws her an advanced looking picture, and she records emotional moments to save his memories. and protects her from vicious dogs and crazy neighbours and asshole dickhead bullies who deserve to die.
That little kid, man, I kind of felt the same. I was like, Jesus, don't condone kids dying, but this kid was a dickhead. You just walk up and he's like pressing the spiky, they're like collecting conkers, and he like proper like digs into her hand. I'm like, what are you doing, man? There's no need for that.
Yeah.
Maybe he didn't deserve to be hit by a car, but...
and I'm glad that they did that.
They didn't shy away from it, yeah.
They full on killed the fucking kid. And I like when he takes Megan to run away, like he takes her shoe off. Oh, what are you going to do? Fucking have sex with this little toy or something? And then she grabs him by the ear and she turns her head facing him, so she, in a way that she was very much aware of everything, planning her moves, rips the ear off. Remember how graphic that was?
They did a good job of like cutting away, and then you come back and the ear was even further out. And I was like, oh holy god. And then they do it again, and then again it was even further out, and you're like, oh my god, what is going on here? Until it rips off. And I had heard the director said that there was an R rating of this film. Like they had a cut that was R rated, but they were like, no, we want to get it down so more people can see it, get down to a 12. So it made them, be a bit more creative, like cutting away from stuff like that, like with the woman, the neighbor who she killed with the hose and the chemicals, that like you just see like the blood kind of dripping down the sidewalk. But
and that was
originally
enough.
Yeah, that was it, exactly. That was enough that you didn't need to see your one's face burning off. I'm sure if there was an 18's cut, we'd see the skeleton, in her face. But no, just like there was enough there that it was satisfactory. Like he said, like the director said, your imagination will fill in those blanks.
I like the little movements that Megan had, like, and they played a bit of a score to it as well. Like when she uses her leg to raise herself back up, Matrix style, and like the soundtrack music is cut into it. And then as you're seeing his perspective, looking back at Megan, and her appearance is being cut off by the various trees in the woods, and then you just see her walking slowly and looking great in her costume, and then she slowly creeps down on all fours, and then eventually starts chasing after him, like in a so unnatural way you've not seen it before. You can see how this device moves, unlike in Child's Play and Chucky, which is fun to compare, but that is all puppetry. To a limited degree.
No, because Megan was, even though she's a toy and she's artificial, there's an actress playing her and they just put a mask on.
Yeah.
And it was like they CGI'd the face basically, so she moves like a real person.
Even when there's close-ups, like you see the shape of her legs and moving robotically, that's still a person. That is a person's leg, and it was done so well. And I really did enjoy this movie. They've confirmed already a sequel, 2025.
It overperformed. I saw that they had initially predicted like something like 10 million opening weekend, and it did like 25. So it overperformed. It's doing really well. It's really well received on Rotten Tomatoes. And like you said there, they've confirmed a sequel to come 2025. So I know that we're only in the beginning of 2023, but like that's I'm not even looking forward to that.
I'm just thinking right now, I really enjoyed this movie. I thought it was great. And then a few other visual moments where you see Megan like sort of sitting in the car, and she's watching everyone being stressed after the boy getting killed, and you can only see her from the outside of the car, and it's very shaded, and you only see the top of her head down to her, like her eyes. And then when she's being hooked up towards the end, and she's mimicking the lead character's friend over the phone to trick her that Megan's actually onto them, and like you can just see the look in her eye and then a little smirk. And then at the end, the whole climax and the fight, and then even singing songs, like especially the Titanium song.
That was pretty funny.
It was
that was
very
unexpected. It did have a good bit of like humor. Yeah, it wasn't like jokes, but it was just, there was some funny moments in it,
and it was funny. And I also liked at the end, and this is actually one thing I would change at the end, when Megan confronts her creator, the main character, Katie's aunt. She started talking to her, and we realised that she has all the memories between the two from conception and development when she was just code.
Yeah, to almost like before the film, before the events of the
years and years
take place. She mentions like, I was the one that was up with you talking about this and that, and like learning.
Yeah,
and it's only that at the end that we kind of like nearly see like, oh,
there was a bond there.
yeah, like M3GAN was the aunt's friend before she was Katie's friend,
Yeah.
and she was kind of nearly abandoned.
At least in that type of sense from M3GAN's perspective, because that's how she felt. And so I thought maybe if they could have just maybe introduced that a little bit earlier at some point, or even just have a quick dialogue, like, you know, I built M3GAN from this code, and she, you know, I had conversations with her, you know, on the laptop or whatnot.
Yeah.
And I thought it would have hit home even more. And then to the point where, you know, the girl gets up from bed, and just M3GAN and the aunt are like fighting, and like a married couple.
Yeah.
M3GAN's talking to them like, we have to raise our girl right, there's a me and you in this, and it's like, that's how M3GAN sees us, like she is the parent to Katie. And Katie says, why are you finding the two of them together, turn their heads, look back, we're not fighting. And like, I like
You
that.
do feel like, yeah, like in terms of an artificial intelligence, that she is her own person, because there's a couple of moments where the two are having a conversation, Katie's aunt and M3GAN.
Yeah.
And the aunt just says, M3GAN, turn off. And she doesn't turn off. She says, why did you just tell me to turn off? Like, you know, we're having a conversation.
Yeah.
You can't have a conversation if you just continuously tell me to stop listening or turn off. It doesn't work like that. Like, she fully sees herself as a person, an integral part of this family.
Yeah.
And should be respected like anyone else. You know, to her, she's real.
And
for M3GAN, she is real.
And at the end, when she's ripped in half by Bruce, which you knew who was going to make an appearance again, Bruce, the big robotic machinery, M3GAN was ripped in half, and she goes crawling after him, and she goes, you ungrateful little bitch. Like you can sense the anger in her as well. It's like, that's pretty cool. All this in a movie like this. I mean, look, it was good. I like this movie. I was happy with it. This was a nice exception for me to enjoy.
Yeah.
You can tell I'm really happy with this. I give this 4 stars out of 5.
That's pretty good.
Yeah.
I think I'll give it 3.5.
Well,
I enjoyed it, but there was some bits that I probably would change. I'd probably get into M3GAN being a bit more evil quicker.
Yeah.
I felt like it was a long time before she actually kind of turned and started doing things that weren't right.
I like the pace actually in terms of...
I would have quickened that up a little bit.
Really?
Personally, yeah.
I like the pace that it took. I like because she doesn't see herself as evil. She's doing this because she's protecting this little girl from the world, when really that's not how you raise a kid. It should be the aunt raising the kid. And even touched on that a little bit, because you know they were marketing M3GAN the toy as things and devices to do with kids that the parents wouldn't have to do.
Yeah.
But then one of our co-workers mentioned, like, we can't have this replace us as parents, and that's what it was at the end of the day between the aunt and the niece. You know, she's, you know, kicking the back seat like an angry child, and it felt like, you know, a guardian child relationship. And I liked, for me, it fed all in together. I really liked it. There's a few things I would have changed, but
I see what you're saying there, though. I don't know if I agree with you, though, with that she sees herself as doing nothing wrong, because she was doing things, but she was like deleting her own video footage of it. Like, she was doing things but hiding them. So I think she knew that they weren't correct, and like she even was getting Katie to lie for her.
yeah.
What she was doing wasn't correct, and she knew the way she was going about it. Her intentions were, because her prime directive was protect Katie from emotional and physical damage. So what she was doing was what she was supposed to do, but she was going about it in the wrong way, and she knew that because she was trying to hide it.
But as a non-human mind, how could one tell the difference and feel any emotion about it? Because she didn't give a fuck about killing some people and killing some animals, and like, you know, how she was saying, like, in a nutshell. Yeah. I thought, because as a robot, she's not going to identify that as right or wrong, because it's all about her maintaining her objective in protecting Katie. And I just remember thinking there's some emotion coming through her dialogue. We're talking about a fucking killer robot doll about a movie that was released in January, but look, that's how I feel, and I get where you're coming from as well. But doesn't... Here, look, we can say that the same thing about Thanos, like why Thanos is doing, you know, this, but that's a whole other ball game that I don't want to touch into, because we're not talking about that. We're talking about M3GAN.
The finale as well, I think, was I was expecting it to go differently. I thought that maybe
it was going to take place at the presentation where they had announced the doll.
No, I thought that the moment where she's kind of ripped in half and then she goes after Katie, I thought that there was going to be a bit more of a like
realization,
yeah, where Katie says you're hurting me, and M3GAN says like, and that kind of goes against her programming, her prime directive, so she would self-destruct or something like that. But I didn't think it would be an actual physical fight and battle.
Right.
Now I still enjoyed it. I just thought it was going to go a completely different route. I quite liked the kind of the Child's Play inspiration of, you know, you thought she was defeated, but she always comes back, just like Chucky does. Like there's always that moment, that one final jump scare.
Yeah.
And that was there with M3GAN as well. I kind of wanted to talk a little bit about the comparisons between M3GAN and Child's Play, the most recent remake, because Child's Play initially was about a man who possessed a doll. His spirit possessed the doll. But in the remake, it was a similar artificial intelligence going evil. Mm-hmm. The same as M3GAN. So, me personally, I think this was better than that Child's Play movie. And I just wanted to see kind of where you stood on it. Do you think this maybe did it better? Did it worse? Is it on the same level?
Of course this did it better. I couldn't tell you all the reasons how or why, but first thing I can say is because of M3GAN herself. Mm-hmm. Felt like that M3GAN was more of a fully rendered person compared to Mark Hamill's Chucky, which is very much more robotic. I would class the Child's Play in 2019, that robot, to, you know, the circular Hoover going around the floor, hoovering up the dust, and like it just keeps crashing into your furniture. Whereas M3GAN, it's close to having arms and limbs and having engaging conversations. That and many more reasons as to why I think it starts with M3GAN as the character. Secondly, there's a few developments in terms of storytelling with the characters, the fact that this is a toy, why we need to make this toy, the sort of meta part of it, playing a commercial in the opening, and it was a play on the industry.
I think maybe someone saw that Child's Play movie and said, I can do that better.
But how did they make it better?
I think they just kind of, like you said there, like a bit more of a well-rounded person, the actual kind of application of what M3GAN could do, because not only was she an artificial intelligence, but she was synced up like kind of to the cloud.
Yeah.
She was able to intercept a call from the aunt to her co-worker and pretend to be her. When she escaped the building, she was able to shut down all the security alarms. When Katie's aunt refused to tell her something, she just looked it up herself on the web. She refused to say how did Katie's parents die? And it's like, oh, you shouldn't be listening. And so she just looked it up herself. So I think that the fact that she was a robot, it was executed far better than when Chucky was a robot compared to when he was a possessed doll.
So pretty much more of our generation and the Gen Z generation in terms of devices. Like your phone, your tablet, your...
Just turning your whole, like everything against you. You know, everything you own, and, you know, because...
Rather than a bunch of toys, more so equipment you use for work and such.
Exactly, yeah. She had her own, like, you know, Google Home device, and it was connected to lights and all this stuff, and M3GAN was able to control that. So I think her name was Gemma, Katie's aunt. We've referred to her as Katie's aunt the whole time. Her name was Gemma, I'm pretty sure, but her...
I'm glad that Gemma has this franchise now. She can move on beyond Get Out.
Oh, she was the girlfriend in Get Out, wasn't she? Yeah, okay.
She always had that look that... Yeah, I'd never forget that face. Mm-hmm. So I'm glad now she's a protagonist here.
Yeah. So I'll be excited to see, because the movie ends on that kind of cliffhanger of M3GAN's dead, but then you see the equivalent of the Google Home or Alexa turn sinisterly, and it's like, oh no, M3GAN's still there. You know, we can't... She's uploaded to the net. We can't get rid of her. So I'll be interested to see her come back, and what form does that take? Will she come back in a similar body? Will she come back as something else?
2.0 is the title.
M3GAN 2.0.
M3GAN
2.0.
I'm looking forward to it. Same cast as well, Gemma and Katie. Pretty much liked everything about this movie aside from the things I would change. I was happy with it. You can see, I keep talking about it. I'm very happy with it.
Yeah, and you'll happily see the next one.
Yeah. And if I'm still alive in 25.
Oh, yeah, come on.
You know.
Unless the artificial intelligent robots get us.
Any final thoughts?
I don't think so. I think in terms of, you know, possessed dolls, where we have Chucky and Annabelle And now we've M3GAN, and I'm happy to see
I think
where...
I think M3GAN stands out above him in Skylance. Like Annabelle's one thing, but like the Conjuring universe has pretty much been done to death now. Like the first Conjuring and maybe the second Annabelle were good. There's only so much you can do because it's not really Annabelle. You don't see her move all that much. And Child's Play has evolved into the goofiness, continuing with Dwarf, rather than the 2019 Child's Play. So M3GAN stands out on its own. I don't even like really comparing it to Child's Play or other killer
but there's
dolls.
definitely a case to be made for her.
Yeah,
you know.
But to me, it stands out on its own. Like I'm not going to make a list of killer dolls in this. You know, like even if I did, it would either have M3GAN in it on its own, and I don't know, with a bunch of Blumhouse movies, or the killer dolls list would not have M3GAN in it because it just stands above it all.
Yeah.
You liked it, I liked it. I hope you guys listening liked it as well. If you didn't like it, why are you listening here? We want lovers, not haters. If you like to keep listening to us, you can follow us on Instagram at Talking Pictures Pod and Twitter Talking Pics Pod, and look forward to more podcast episodes to come down the line. And as I said, we're in Ireland. We don't get everything released to us on time like you do all in the US, and only if it's worth the time to talk about. We're here to talk about things we like, not hate, unless it's crucial information.
Yeah.
Alright, say bye, David.
Bye, David.
Bye.